The Misadventures of Mr. Clumsy. Once upon a time in the small town of Wobbleville, there lived a man named Mr. Clumsy. His real name was George, but nobody called him that because, well, he was the clumsiest person in town. If there was a banana peel, he would step on it. If there was a door, he would walk into it. If there was a cat, he would trip over it. The Great Breakfast Disaster. One morning, Mr. Clumsy woke up and decided to make himself a fancy breakfast. He put some bread in the toaster, but he forgot to plug it in. He cracked an egg into a pan, but he forgot to turn on the stove. Then, he poured himself a glass of orange juice, but missed the glass completely. "Well, at least I didn't burn anything today," he said happily, just before knocking over the entire bottle of syrup onto his head. A visit to the supermarket. After his delicious breakfast, Mr. Clumsy decided to go to the supermarket. As soon as he entered, he grabbed a shopping cart, but somehow, his coat got stuck on another cart. He pulled and pulled until, bam! All the shopping carts rolled out of control, knocking over a pyramid of apples. The manager, Mr. Grumpy, came running. "Mr. Clumsy, what have you done this time?" "It wasn't my fault. The carts attacked me," Mr. Clumsy said, slipping on an apple and crashing into a shelf full of spaghetti. Spaghetti rained down like a noodle storm. A little old lady looked at him and said, "Young man, you should be in the circus." The unlucky date. Later that evening, Mr. Clumsy had a date with a woman named Lily. She was kind, beautiful, and most importantly, she didn't know how clumsy he was. He met her at a fancy restaurant and tried his best to be careful. He picked up the menu and accidentally knocked over the salt shaker. He reached for the water and spilled it all over the table. He tried to apologize but waved his hands too much and sent a bread basket flying into another man's soup. Lily giggled. "You're like a walking tornado." Mr. Clumsy blushed. "I just wanted to impress you, you did." She laughed. "I've never been on such an exciting date before." At that moment, the waiter arrived with their food. But before Mr. Clumsy could say anything, he sneezed so hard that his spaghetti flew off his plate and landed right on his head. Happily ever after, with some bumps. Surprisingly, Lily liked Mr. Clumsy just the way he was. They started dating, and every day was an adventure, sometimes a dangerous one. Whether it was dropping an entire cake at a wedding or getting stuck in a revolving door, Mr. Clumsy always managed to make her laugh. 1 year later, Mr. Clumsy proposed. Of course, he accidentally dropped the ring in a bowl of soup, but Lily just laughed and said yes anyway. And so, Mr. Clumsy finally found someone who loved him for all his messy, silly ways. And even though he never stopped tripping, slipping, or spilling things, he was the happiest man in Wobbleville.